Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
I'm Ghibli, days away from weapons.
I'm very excited about that. And of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a lot of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is where we're going to take your comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or an issue you'd like us to discuss, as long as we deem it appropriate to be discussed on the show, you can go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news about the tip link. It's actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to this show on a podcast feed, either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching this show a little bit later in the day, you can still send in a question. And if you just send one in when we're not live, well, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get things started with this. Superman, still in theaters, still making money and all that kind of stuff. But it did something that a number of people, including me, had wondered about whether it could actually do. Could it actually break even? And according to box office data that's now come in, Superman has now passed the break-even point. Now, some people like myself has said for a year or two that Superman may not break even, but it doesn't really need to. The argument I've made for a long time is when you have a property as totally in the sewer and completely annihilated and destroyed as the DC property became as a result of the DCEU.
Don't mince words, John. Don't mince words.
Don't mince words. Say what you
really
really think. And when you've completely lost the entire audience, as proven by the statistical data of the box office results of the last 5, 6, 7 DCEU movies that came out, we always said that the number one job of Superman was not to make money. It was to play a part to make sure future movies can make money. If you're small-sighted and short-sighted, you just look at Superman and hope it makes money. If you're big picture person, if you're long-term sighted, you're seeing what does this play a part in the overall health and success of the larger cinematic universe. And Superman did that. 80+% critic rating, 90+% audience rating, A- cinema score. So it did all of that. And now with the cherry on top, as we look over at Box Office Mojo, Superman has now crossed, by the way, it's like 156 million now. But we did this calculation the other week. There are two basic formulas, very basic, very rudimentary, very general idea formulas that people use to kind of figure out what's the break-even point for a movie. The most common one people use is production budget multiplied by 2.5. That's the one most people use. I believe the more accurate reflection of that, even though it's still just general and ballpark, is production budget plus marketing budget, then multiplied by 1.5. Either way, both results end up in the $550 to $555 million range for the break-even point. So whichever formula you use, whether it's the popular one or the one that I use, Superman has now passed the break-even point and has become profitable. Rob, to me, the idea of Superman becoming profitable was always that of gravy. This is just bonus. This is extra. Warner Brothers and James Gunn aren't looking at this new DCU in terms of 1 year. They're looking at it in terms of 10 years. And I've said for a long time, this entire franchise is absolutely screwed if people don't like Superman. Because if you never get a second chance to make a first impression, if you come out of the gate bad, when all the stuff that comes before you is bad, you're dead. You're dead in the water. No pressure, James Gunn, but you were dead in the water. It accomplished it, and on top of accomplishing it, it is now, every dollar it makes will be profitable. Which is good news. Again, I don't think it's the most important thing in the world for this movie, but the fact that it's crossed this threshold is pretty good. I still believe this movie deserves more than it got, but that's what you're going to get when everybody's kind of given up. And it doesn't help that the other company up the street making comic book related material for the past 5 years has been very hit or miss. So I think this is something they need to celebrate a lot, Rob. Anyway, You're seeing that it's now crossed that arbitrary break-even point, now become profitable. How significant or not significant is that for this? What do you see it?
I want to point out it's still going to earn out all August long. I mean, it's still going to earn a lot more money. I mean, it was still doing $2 and $3, $4 million during the week last week, and it doesn't have a lot of competition this week. And before people are going to school, they'll get more viewings in. Same is true of Fantastic Four. And there's also, there's other revenue streams. For instance, you have to remember all the partnerships they have with products. They've got all kinds of companies, and they pay in to have these partnership deals to the studio. There's a licensing fee for movies these movies don't get to go on HBO Max for free. They have to pay some kind of I know it's within the same studio, but money is changing hands. And there's an alternative revenue streams. You're going to have SVOD or VOD, and there's all kinds of things the movie's going to earn for a long time. And not only that, John, like you pointed out, they've spent money. They've already made Supergirl. That production budget's been spent. I mean, that's not true because
they're in post Peacemaker season 2.
So they haven't just spent the money for Superman. They've spent the money for TV shows, animated shows, other feature films. They probably paid writers to write Titans and to write Clayface. And so there is a large expenditure that's been put out. And like you pointed out, like a TV show does not break even to like the third or fourth season if it's successful. Most TV shows, if they don't run more than one season, they don't make money. They're a losing proposition. So I think a lot of people, the way especially the fan community calculates value, they don't understand there's a lot more to it than just box office numbers. And the movie is still earning out. It could earn another $100 million.
It could, yeah.
And so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But look, I think this is if you look at the rest of the DC universe, as you pointed out, this has outgrossed all the DC movies we've seen over the last half decade?
I saw a report that said it's the first, if you take out the Elseworld movies of Matt Reeves as the Batman and the Joker, if you take out the Elseworld movies.
Yeah.
I think they said this is the first profitable, now that it's profitable, it is the first profitable DC Cinematic Universe movie since the first Shazam film.
Right, okay. And that makes sense. I mean, obviously, the Batman and the Joker certainly was an anomaly because you got to offset the Joker 2 Folie et Deux because, now the Joker movies are two movies. And if you really want to look at it, you have to calculate the box office of both and find out was that franchise, even though every movie's its own thing, but still, whatever money the Joker made, and it was one of the most successful movies ever in terms of expense to return ROI.
Made big money.
Joker 2 wiped all that out, and so it's always interesting when people are calculating how much money a movie made. I've always found that to be strange because we'll talk about adjusted for inflation and all that. You made a great post about that today.
Just but for context, here are the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here are the last 8 movies released by the DCEU. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom lost money. Made $433 million. Got close. Close to breaking even. Blue Beetle lost money. Made $129 million. The Flash lost money. Made $271 million. Shazam! Fury of the Gods lost money. Made $134 million. Black Adam roughly broke even. I'm going to give that to it roughly broke even. Black Adam made $393 million. Suicide Squad, a lot of asterisks with that, came out during the pandemic, a lot of theaters closed, day and date release on HBO Max, but still $168 million. Wonder Woman 1984, a lot of the same asterisks though, $169 million. And Harley Quinn and the Emancipation Birds of Prey and the One Emancipation of Harley Quinn, that lost money. This is, for cinematic universes, the biggest hit DC has had
by a wide margin.
By a wide margin in years.
Yeah.
And remember, the main mission of this movie was just to do repair, was just maintenance and rehabilitation. And it ended up being the biggest hit that they've had in forever how long. Again, if you're not taking into account the Elseworld movies of the brilliant Matt Reeves, the Batman, and at least the brilliant first Joker film. So that's pretty significant when you look at the context.
Yeah. No, and look, I'm excited. What I'm also excited about is the box office in general this summer seems to have the money is spread around between a lot of different films. We've seen How to Train Your Dragon be successful. F1 has been successful. Apple's first real foray into theatrical releases through Warner Brothers. That has been successful, and it's made a lot of money foreign. So, I like seeing that the box office is healthy. It might not be at pre-COVID levels, but still, and we're going to see 2 movies opening this week, Weapons being one. I think Weapons is also going to make money. Warner Brothers is having a good year.
They are. After a slow start.
Yes.
After a slow start, and when I say year, I mean the past 12 months. A little bit of a slow start. By the way, I'm seeing some discussion of things like, wait a minute, I thought I heard Superman needed $750 million to break even. There's so many people throwing out bullshit numbers.
Well, it's because of the tax break number that was reported in Ohio.
Well, I mean, regardless, though, the basic premise is, again, we'll go with the common one, not the more accurate one that I use. Production budget, which was $220 million, multiplied by 2.5. That's the number everybody uses. That's the number they use on every movie. Superman, $220 million production budget, multiplied by 2.5 is 550. It's past that. If you use my model, which is production budget plus marketing budget, total result multiplied by 1.5, the result is 555, which it crosses today. So either way, whatever, don't listen to all this noise and bullshit that people pull out selective numbers and try to make things sound whatever. This is the number. 550 was what it needed to cross, and it got there. And again, as to Rob's point, that's not even taking into consideration all the other auxiliary money that comes in. But since we don't really talk about that when we talk about other movies anyway.
Well, that's not part of the budget of the film.
Yeah, and it's not part of the budget. So we'll leave that be it. But there we are. And this movie, again, to me, whose number one job was just maintenance and rehabilitation, actually became the biggest hit they've had in, well, forever when it comes to their cinematic universes.
Yeah.
Question is for you guys. What do you guys make of this? I, for a long time, said this movie doesn't even need to make money. What it needs to do is to start to win the audience back. And it looks like it's done both. I think that's pretty significant. Anyway, whatever you guys think about that, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Not a lot of things that I love more than being pleasantly surprised by a movie. And that certainly happened with me with the latest installment of a franchise that I don't even like that much, which is the Final Destination franchise. But they showed us a preview for Final Destination Bloodlines at CinemaCon back in April. And I went crazy for it. I thought it looked amazing. And I was not disappointed when I went to go see the movie. It was absolutely a joyride. I absolutely loved it. And it got a 93% critic rating, well deserved. It was an absolute blast of a movie. And now it's enjoying even more success after its theatrical life. As CBR and others are reporting, just one day, after just one day, Final Destination Bloodlines is now the #1 streaming movie in the world. They write the following. They say, Final Destination Bloodlines recently made its highly anticipated streaming debut, but the movie is already dominating the charts. The 6th installment in the Final Destination franchise has scored a certified fresh critic score of 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is amazing, with audience scores not falling too far behind at 87%. This would make Final Destination Bloodlines the first film in the franchise to receive a positive rating from both critics and audiences. Released on May 16th, Bloodline was made for $50 million budget. Now, the movie only made 200 and something, I think, but they did that on a $50 million budget.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little payday for them. If we go over and look at the charts, after one day in release, Final Destination by a wide margin is the #1 streamed movie. Now, this one is only HBO's charts, so I haven't found the one for the overall ones, but even just by HBO's standards worldwide, it beat out Until Dawn, Sinners, the Minecraft movie, other Final Destinations, which gained popularity as people are checking them back out.
The OG.
Wicked. What's that?
The OG one. Final Destination
the original one. The Ministry of Gentleman Warfare, and of course, Final Destination 5. So it by a wide margin. Now, look. As Matt Damon brilliantly explained on Hot Ones a couple of years ago, these post-theatrical windows do not generate the revenue that they used to a decade or two ago. But still, Rob, I think this says something about, I'm going to call it the hookability of this movie. because I know I'm going to watch this again on streaming.
Right.
I had such a blast. What do you think about its success, and what do you attribute it to?
Well, they knew the assignment. You know, they're like, they went out, they were resurrecting. There hadn't been a movie in 14 years in this franchise. I think producer Craig Perry like knew what to do. Like, they had an idea, somebody pitched an idea, they came up with an irresistible idea, and they executed it well. You know, it was a movie that you could look at this as a crass commercial cash grab on a moribund franchise that they resurrected, which you'd be correct.
And you would be correct. Both can be true.
Yeah,
they both can be true.
And the thing is, if they do it well, I always say, John, I've always said, you know, every franchise is, or every IP is one great movie away from being resurrected. And I liked seeing this because clearly the people that wanted to make this movie knew what they had. They hired the people to execute it properly, and they delivered a really fun audience experience. You talk about movies being experiential events. This movie was, aside from the fact that looks nothing like the Space Needle, this movie is a hoot. It's a hoot. I loved it too, you know, and it just, look, is it gonna change the world? No.
No.
But if you're having a bad day and you want to sit down for 95 or 100 minutes, however long this movie is, this film will get you where you want to go. And that's all you can expect from any piece of entertainment. And again, you know who knew this was going to be good? Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca at Warner Brothers. You know, they're like, hey, we're going to New Line coming back. We had Companion at the beginning of the year, which should have done much better than it. I keep hearing Companion, like, they were talking about it on NPR being one of the great movies of 2025, and it sort of went unsung. And I'm like, great, I'm not the only one. But this movie, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was a winner on every level, and it was good for the studio. So what's not to love, man?
And yet, to your point, here's the thing. I remember I feel bad that I'm forgetting the name of the podcast, but I was listening to one podcast where they were kind of debating about what did Martin Scorsese mean by something isn't cinema? What's cinema? What do you think Martin Scorsese means by cinema? And one of the people said something that stuck with me. He said, cinema is when you're watching a movie and it hits you, right? It hits you. And I agree with that. But that's exactly what I mean when I say movies are experiential events. Like, there's different experiences different movies can give you. Is this Schindler's List? No. But it's not aiming to give you that experience. It's aiming to give you a completely different experience. And I would argue it delivered that experience in spades.
You know what? I have people have asked me about the same thing. What do you think the difference is? And I said, okay, let's say you're going to go out for an afternoon of Sunday entertainment and you want to be entertained. If you choose to go to Six Flags and ride roller coasters, is that entertaining? 100%. But you can also go to MoMA or MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, and see frescoes from the 16th century. One of those is cinema, and one of those is popcorn entertainment. They're both entertaining, but you're getting you're getting a much different experience.
They're both aiming to give you the same thing, an experience. Just different kinds.
Different kinds, and cinema runs the gamut. You know, you watch if I'm going to tell people, hey, you want to watch a great science fiction movie? Watch Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker. Well, you're not going to get the same thing out of that movie if you want to watch Alien. And I have to judge if I'm going to tell my friends, there's a lot of them that aren't going to get much out of Stalker. They're going to be like, Rob, that was like watching paint dry. And I have other friends that are going to be like, that was the secrets of the universe. It changed my life. But they're both valid. They're both using, I mean, Alien that's a bad example. Battle Beyond the Stars or Galaxy of Terror would be a better version of what I'm trying to say. But you can be transformed by both. The greatest roller coaster in the world provides a singular thrill you can't get anywhere else. Just like a great horror movie gives you something you're not going to get if you're watching When Harry Met Sally.
And by the way, to the people that would say, but John, one is easier to make than the other, I would radically disagree.
I do
You
too.
want to know what proves making a great, entertaining, experience-delivering Final Destination is not easy? The other Final Destination movies. At least in my opinion, right? I remember, not Kevin Hart, Chris Rock. Chris Rock was once talking about the issue of comedy as an art. He said, you go to the ballet. I'm not going to try to imitate Chris Rock.
Right.
You go to the ballet, and everybody will say, yeah, well, that's art. and you come see some stand-up comedian, you go, well, that's not art. Says that's only said by people who have no idea how many years and months and hours are put into crafting something to the point that it can elicit the response from the audience that they're getting at. He said there's a reason there's one good stand-up comic for every 1,000 stand-up comics out there. So yeah, you go into one, the ballet is art, because believe me, stand-up comedy is art, and doing it well is incredibly difficult. And to the point that we're making here, Rob, both of them are aiming to deliver an experience and entertainment value. And if you can do it, you can do it. And Final Destination Bloodlines did it. And I'm thrilled for its success.
Yeah. And the funny thing is just as a genre, if you look at the horror genre, look at the gamut of different kinds. Like, to me, The Exorcist is cinema. And say, I don't know, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is entertainment. I mean, they're both using the medium of film.
Yep.
But I'm not going to tell you that Killer Clowns from Outer Space is equal to The Exorcist, because it's not. And that's what Martin Scorsese was saying. You know, I mean, it's as simple to understand as that.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, from one day being on streaming, Final Destination Bloodlines is already a global hit on that rate. Again, it doesn't generate the revenue that it used to, but I mean, it just shows that this thing really hooked on people. What do you attribute that to? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? One of the things that I think most film fans, and I include myself, all of us into this every once in a while, that we truly underestimate is just how few films make like over $400 million. Like it's in the single percentile, if not like on the shorter end of the single percentile. We all just think that 400, 500, $600 million movies have it all the time, but they're really actually quite rarity. And every once in a while, a statistic will come up that'll catch us a little bit by surprise. For example, many people find it a bit surprising to find out this, that F1, the movie that is still in theaters, by the way, is now, according to these reports, Brad Pitt's highest grossing film of all time. Brad Pitt, top 5 most recognizable actors working in the world today. Brad Pitt, F1 is now his top grossing movie of all time, which we think, well, did it make $1 billion? No, it didn't. Actually, if you go over and take a look, this is the list of his highest grossing films ever. Ocean's 11 made $450 million. Just above that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. By the way, I love that movie.
Yeah.
$487 million. Troy, didn't love that movie, but I didn't hate it.
Achilles.
You are lions. Made $497 million. World War Z, which started as a disaster and actually turned out to be a pretty good movie after all the reshoots, made $540 million. And as of now, F1 and counting is his highest grossing movie ever. I was talking to a friend of mine about this morning. We were just texting back and forth. He goes, wait a minute, you don't have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in there. I'm like, how much do you think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood made?
Yep.
It made under $400 million. I think the number's like 370 or something like that. It's like, it doesn't happen. Right? This is a big deal. And so even I have to admit, Rob, seeing that this is now his highest grossing film of all time took me a little bit aback, especially when you look at the career that he's had. Anyway, Rob, you see these numbers, you saw this chart. What stands out to you?
Well, what's really interesting, if you think about some of our biggest movie stars, you think about when I think about Scarlett Johansson, I think about movies like Ghost World. That was a really great movie that she was Steve Buscemi. And
what's the one she did where she got the chemical in her brain reached 100%?
Oh, Lucy.
That's actually kind of a fun.
Lucy's a kick-ass.
I've appreciated that one more as the years go by.
Yeah,
I like it a lot before, but now I like it a lot.
But the thing is, Scarlett Johansson is a really great actress, but you think about all these big, Jurassic World Rebirth has made her one of the most bankable movie stars in the world. No one remembers the things that made her the Scarlett Johansson that got her into those roles, like Under the Skin.
Yeah.
The science fiction movie that's an adaptation of Matthew Faber's book.
That's where she's just the voice of the AI with Joaquin Phoenix?
No, that's her.
Yeah, her.
She's
right.
not even in that movie.
It's just her voice.
So, and that I love that movie's one of my favorite science fiction movies of the 21st century. But you think about the fact that Brad Pitt has been, look, movies I love, Interview with the Vampire. I love Meet Joe Black. But remember, that guy, Legends of the Fall, made women the world over swoon.
Yeah, and that's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Cast.
Or if he's in a small movie like Killing Them Softly or something like that, or wasn't he in the assassination of Jesse James by the
by the coward
Robert Ford. You know, he's become a guy that delivers Thelma and Louise. You know, his early
he in 12
roles.
Monkeys?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I was going to do the whole, but yeah, I mean, he's been a guy that's been around in movies for 35 years, building a true romance. You pick up some cleaning products. I mean, he's got a great career, but like you said, very few of his movies have been, say, huge blockbusters. I mean, look, I love Ocean's 11. That was one of the most, like The Social Network, one of the most rewatchable movies ever made.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for heist films. So.
Yeah, and that movie is the relationship of George Clooney and Brad Pitt in that movie is phenomenal. And it's great that he has this. He was perfect for F1, perfect choice.
Oh, he was so great in it. But I'll call it out. My favorite Brad Pitt movie is still Snatch. That is still my favorite Brad Pitt movie. I still understand the bloody word he says in it. I usually have to watch that with the, what do they call the language he's speaking? They call it the dialect.
Cockney is a Cockney rhyme.
No, it's not Cockney. It's I'm forgetting the word of it. But you on the official DVD release, Pikey was
yes.
it.
Oh,
Charles
Paul Jenkins
Logan
is gonna get
Charles
mad.
Logan. So
I didn't know that.
The original DVD had Pikey subtitles that you could watch, which was one of the funniest things they've ever done. Anyway, that's my favorite of his. But again, it is kind of weird to think about that. The fact that this is now his largest one, a $500-something million one, which again should really reemphasize to us just how few films reach that box office mark.
Yeah.
When you compare to all the others. So good on you, Brad Pitt. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this accomplishment for F1? I mean, when you think about the legendary career of Brad Pitt, this is now his highest grossing movie. I mean, if you don't count his 0.001 second appearance in Deadpool 2 as the Invisible Boy, this is his highest grossing movie. Whatever you think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, listen, we still have a number of big issues that we're going to discuss here, including Jurassic World Rebirth has quietly passed the $750 million mark. We're going to talk about that. Mark Ruffalo, it's now official. He is coming back as the Hulk in Spider-Man 4. Speaking of Spider-Man 4, we got our first look at Tom Holland in Spider-Man costumes, the new Spider-Man costume images, and Fantastic Four took a terrible second weekend drop. We're going to talk about that, put it into context. But before we do, there's a bunch of other smaller movie news that we think deserves to be put on the radar for you guys to know about. So we've got in this little segment we call the movie news feed. We're starting off today's news feed on a sad note. Lonnie Anderson, the actress best known for her role as receptionist Jennifer Marlowe on the TV sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati, has died at the age of 79. Her longtime publicist Cheryl Kagan confirmed that Anderson passed away at a Los Angeles hospital on Saturday, August 3rd, just days before her 80th birthday, following what they're calling a prolonged illness. Anderson, who earned 2 Emmy and 3 Golden Globe nominations for her role on the show, was also known for her marriage to actor Burt Reynolds, with whom she co-starred in the 1983 film Stroker Ace. This one really sucks. WKRP in Cincinnati was one of the very first sitcoms I remember watching as a child. I mean, it was already in syndication by that point, and Lonnie Anderson was one of the true standouts of the show, and she will be missed. Next up, an absolutely great-looking little indie comedy called The Threesome has had its trailer launch. Starring Zoe Deutsch, Jonah Hauer-King, and Ruby Cruz, the film is a surprisingly sweet and sexy comedy that goes beyond a simple one-night stand. It's directed by Chad Hartigan, and the story follows Olivia and Connor, who have a three-way sexual encounter with Jenny. The plot thickens, though, when both women become pregnant on the same night, and their private encounter becomes public. The film is being praised for being an empathetic and heartfelt adult comedy about love, friendship, and the complexities of adulthood. It's scheduled to open in theaters on September 5th. Now, both Rob and I sat down and watched this trailer, and we both agree. We think this thing looks great and really kind of highlights the magic that can happen when a talented group of indie filmmakers have a really creative, fun, relatable script. Next up, Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne have expressed a desire to reunite with Zac Efron on their Apple TV Plus show Platonic. You guys remember that the trio previously starred together in the 2014 comedy Neighbors. I love that movie, by the way. Anyway, at the season 2 premiere of Platonic on July 30th, 2025, Byrne told The Hollywood Reporter that she doesn't understand why a reunion hasn't happened yet, while Rogen suggested getting both Zac Efron and Ike Barinholtz, who is his co-star in his Emmy-nominated show The Studio. He also co-starred with them in Neighbors, to appear on the show. Next up, former Netflix children's programming executive Amy Takahara has filed a lawsuit against the company for alleged gender and racial discrimination, sexual harassment, and retaliation. The lawsuit, which names executive Edward Horaz, claims that he created a toxic workplace, denying Takahara credit for her work on shows like The Geek Girl and making misogynistic comments. Takahara alleges that despite reporting her concerns to HR, Netflix failed to take action and ultimately terminated her position in February 2025 in retaliation. Now, Netflix has responded by stating that Takahara's position was eliminated due to downsizing and that her claims, quote unquote, lack merit. Next up, Lee Isaac Chung, the director of Twisters and the Oscar-nominated film Minari, is in talks to direct a prequel to the Ocean's 11 franchise for Warner Brothers and Margot Robbie's production company, Lucky Chap Entertainment. The production is still in early development with a script written by Carrie Solomon. While no cast has been officially confirmed, there are rumors that Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling may star as the parents of Danny and Debbie Ocean in a story set in the 1960s Europe. Now, Jay Roach was previously attached to direct the film, but Chung's involvement indicates that he's no longer with the project. So I'm a little bit torn on this because while I love the idea of a Barbie reunion between Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling because I love their chemistry in Barbie, I have to admit I'm not really all that interested in a prequel about the parents of Danny Ocean, so we'll see how this one unfolds. And finally, producer Lynette Howell-Taylor has been elected president of the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, the group behind the Oscars, by the organization's board of governors. She succeeds Janet Yang, who served 3 one-year terms. Howell-Taylor is the 5th woman to hold the position and the 3rd in the last 12 years. An Academy member since 2014, Howell-Taylor has produced over 25 films, including A Star is Born, for which she received a Best Picture nomination. She also previously served as the vice president and chair of the Academy's Awards Committee and co-produced the 92nd Academy Awards. And that'll do it for today's movie news feed. And now you're all caught up on all the other stories going on in the world of movies and movie news. By the way, the news feed is a relatively revisited again feature here on the show. Let us know if you think it's worth it or if you don't think we need to spend our time on it. All right. With that down, guys, let's get on to this, shall we? Jurassic World Rebirth sucks. It's not a very good movie. It had its moments. It really did. It had some very enjoyable moments that I had a good time with. But overall, I personally think it's one of the worst Jurassic World movies. And I had a lot of excitement going into it, and I had a lot of hope for it. But regardless, no matter how good or bad it was, us and everybody else in the world said, the thing is giant dinosaurs in a Jurassic movie, they make money. And while this movie probably deserved to make $200 million, it has very quietly now passed the $750 million mark for a movie that really nobody's talking about. And quite frankly, again, I don't think is even all that good. But this speaks to the power of this franchise. The folks over at Variety wrote the following. Jurassic World Rebirth keeps roaring at the box office with ticket sales clearing the $750 million milestone over the weekend. Universal's dinosaur tentpole, which rebooted the prehistoric series with Scarlett, it didn't really reboot it. Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali, who is not Blade, at the helm, has grossed $766 million globally after 5 weekends of release. It's one of those Hollywood films this year. Disney's Lilo and Stitch made $1 billion, and Warner Brothers' A Minecraft movie made $955 million, are the other two to clear $750 million so far. That is rare company. Think about this. We are in the second half of the year. It's not like time flies, guys. 2025 is not a new year anymore. We are more than halfway through the year. And this movie is right now the 3rd biggest film of the year so far, only behind, again, Lilo and Stitch and the Minecraft movie. listen, I may not have loved this film, but again, this speaks to the power of the franchise.
That's a great shot, though.
It is good. And I love that scene.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say, how did the ref, I get it.
The dinosaur scenes in this movie are awesome.
When it's firing, it's really enjoyable. I just found that it did not fire very often.
No, well, because the rest of the movie is like, eh.
Now, when you put it in perspective of the Jurassic franchise historically, it ranks near the bottom. Like you can see it here. The Jurassic World is the highest grossing one, made $1.67 billion. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom made $1.3 billion. Jurassic Park, including all of its re-releases, has made $1.046 billion. Jurassic World Dominion made over $1 billion. That means other than this new one, every Jurassic World movie joined the $1 billion club. And then you got this one, Jurassic World Rebirth made 766. Hell, might even get as high as 800. I mean, it's already going into its sixth weekend, maybe not 800, but it's going to get close. Then behind that, you got Jurassic World, The Lost World, Jurassic Park made 618. And then the lowest of the bunch, Jurassic Park 3, made $368 million. Rob, the thing about Jurassic movies is, even when they're dumb, they will contain some fun. And even this one, which might be my least favorite or second least favorite of the franchise, there were 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes worth of real legit fun I was having in it. Unfortunately, the rest of it was kind of pointless. But it speaks to that. People, you put a movie called Jurassic in theaters, regardless of word of mouth, regardless of anything else, people are going to go, I might want to go check that out because it sounds like fun. And people go. And they continue to go. And I said after I saw this movie, Rob, they're not going to make another one of these after this. They've totally run out of steam. When you're saying the population of the earth is no longer interested in dinosaurs in your own movie, which is a ridiculous thing to say, you've run out of gas. No, I was wrong. They're going to make another one. This wasn't even all that good, and it made $750 million. Of course you make another one. And you know what? I'll go see it. Because, I mean, it's a little hit and miss, the franchise, but when they hit, it's a ball of fun. And even when they're not so great like this one, it's at least not a complete waste of time. Like, I didn't think this movie sucked. Again, there's moments I liked about it, but man, you got to tip your hat that even though it's one of the lowest grossing of the franchise, it speaks to the power of the franchise. That $766 million is one of the lowest grossing ones you have. Anyway, Rob, you saw this result. What do you think about this?
Dude, you know what? As much as I was disappointed overall by the movie, the dinosaur action was awesome. And when I was a little kid, I would watch something horrible like Reptilicus, this Danish Godzilla ripoff. Reptilicus was a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. But I would watch it just for the moments of 5 minutes of ridiculous action from the monster. And as a kid, I was like, that was great. If I was a kid today, if I was demanding my mom took me to see the new Jurassic World movie and I was 8, I wouldn't care. I mean, this movie has awesome monster action. It'd probably be my favorite movie if I was 8, because it'd be the first Jurassic movie I saw in the theater. So for me, I'm like, these movies, I'm not demanding Andrei Tarkovsky's Andrei Rublev nostalgia or The Mirror from these movies. I just want some giant hot dinosaur action and people dying in the mouths of dinosaurs. That's it.
With ninjas.
That would be that. Well, you think about what you could do with this movie. You could make real steel, but instead of robots, it's dinosaurs that are pit fighting. Like, you could do take your pick. You could do Gladiator with dinosaurs, like dudes riding dinosaurs. You could do in the future, like 50 years from now. There's so many, you could take this, and if there was just dinosaurs eating people doing in an arena fighting, who wouldn't watch that? I would totally watch that. There would be, if you told me they're making Jurassic Universe and they had an arena on the moon where they would sequester T-Rexes and they would keep them safe from the human population and they were going to fight in an arena on the moon, I'd be like, sign me up. It doesn't matter. Like, these movies are totally critic proof. Just give me, and as technology gets better, as long as they know how to make dinosaur action and Gareth Edwards coming off I still think about his low budget movie Monster that he made.
Oh, that was really good.
It was really good. But that's when he learned how to take people and giant monsters and shoot it. So I'll watch.
I got to admit, the idea of just like, say, robo fight jockey dinosaurs, I don't think that works. I think what makes the Jurassic franchise work is the basic conceit of taking the real world
Yeah.
and just dropping dinosaurs in it and what happens.
Oh, I totally agree.
And I think when you leave it in kind of a natural state like that, people will keep going to see it. Like, I don't know if you modded up the T-Rexes and put battle armor on them and had somebody ride them into battle. Now, there are going to be people like you and me that'll watch that. I just don't know if it'll be the box office hit
You could make that
of
awesome.
thing.
You could make that awesome, especially if there were apes with armor and rifles riding dinosaurs. You combine the Planet of the Apes franchise with, you have a crossover between Universal and 20th Century Studios. No, I mean, I'm going too far. But in all honesty, I mean, I think they could do, there is more to do. There is more to do. And obviously with 750, this movie though had, paying for Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali wasn't cheap.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
So having that probably added, I mean, I don't know about the profitability of this, but you know, and it's not done earning either. It's got money to make.
Oh, it's still rolling. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can find this right now. So Jurassic World is still, like, after its 5th weekend, it's still number 5 this weekend at the box office. Still number 5.
You know,
it's still got legs.
You now have to look, there's 7 Jurassic Park movies now, or Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. And you really have to think of the franchise overall. You have to calculate how much is these movies grossed in total, all 7. Average them out and find out how much did they spend on this as a franchise, and look at all the ancillary marketing. You can still find Jurassic World and Jurassic Park toys at Walmart. It's on cable all the time. I mean, this is a franchise. There's theme park rides. There's all kinds of stuff that's never going to go away. So this is an ongoing thing. You could just make these movies forever, and people are going to go.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Now, granted, this is a bit of a big step backwards at the box office. I mean, the last 3 or 4 of them all made over $1 billion. But still, this isn't even that good of a movie, and it still made $750 million.
They just don't have enough people. They literally they miscalculated. There's not enough human beings in this movie to die.
Oh, you know what? I was watching the movie, and as soon as they got on the boat, I'm like, and I remember turned to Ann, I said, there's not enough people on the boat.
No.
There's not enough cannon fodder.
No.
Anyway, guys, whatever you think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The other day, we did a show last week, and the thumbnail on our video was about Spider-Man and had John Bernthal, and I included Mark Ruffalo's Hulk in it because, you know, there have been rumors that who's going to be there. And I said on the show, listen, it's not official that he's going to be in it, but there's been enough rumors. I felt good putting him in the thumbnail. Ooh, I had some people give me a hard time. Understandably, to a degree. Well, now it is official. As according to the Hollywood Reporter, Mark Ruffalo, Hawaiian picnic family attending Hulk and all, is returning officially now for Spider-Man 4. Hollywood Reporter says the following. Spider-Man Brand New Day has found a smashing star to join Tom Holland in the Sony Marvel movie sequel. Mark Ruffalo is returning to prize the role of Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, in the feature, which comes 14 years. 14 years after the actor joined the MCU in the Avengers. The movie had been rumored for a while, but only firmed up as the script came together and as production gears up for beginning this month in England. At the same time, as a side note, Michael Mando, known for his work on Better Call Saul, is returning to reprise the role of the Scorpion, the villain character whom he first played in Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017, a feature that kicked off Holland-centric Spider-Man movies. Okay, so we could talk about Scorpion, side thing. I don't think he's going to be a major player in the movie. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But Banner's back. Hulk is back. I think this is going to be, the first Spider-Man movie where it's a big ensemble. We got John Bernthal, we got Hulk, but I think he's truly going to be the main guy in it because, like, even to a degree, while Spider-Man Homecoming was absolutely Spider-Man's movie, he was a bit overshadowed by the presence of Iron Man. Even though Spider-Man No Way Home was definitively his movie, it was overshadowed a little bit about the fact that Doctor Strange was there. I think in this one, even though you got John Bernthal, even though you're bringing in Bruce Banner, I think this is definitively a Spider-Man movie. I think it's very much going to be Tom Holland centric. But I am fascinated by the Banner thing. Because to me, Rob, and I'm only speaking for myself, the Russo brothers' tenure in the MCU has not been perfect. It's been almost perfect. But my biggest one true gripe about their management of the MCU projects that they've helmed has been the absolute ball snipping of Hulk. They completely nerfed him, right? Hulk started off in Avengers as the ultimate nuclear option. We have a Hulk. The whole nexus of Loki's plan was to get the monster on board. That was it. Like, he was it. He is the great intangible. The oh damn, we're fucked. And then they turned him into a side note, right? And I'm not even talking about the fact that he lost a fight to Thanos. That's the ultimate way to set up Thanos.
Right.
But he ultimately more and more just kind of got nerfed, and ultimately ending with, I like the way he started in She-Hulk. I like the first episode of She-Hulk. I do. I like the first episode. Show was terrible overall. First episode was good. But it ended up with him, like, again, wearing Hawaiian shirts, showing up with an idiot-looking son and attending a family barbecue. And it's like, I'm sorry, this isn't Hulk. And so I'm really curious. Is this Spider-Man movie in the hands of Destin, the director of Shang-Chi? Is it going to double down on this ridiculous Professor Hulk character we've got? Or is it going to start a reclamation, Rob? A reclamation of the true Hulk that we should be getting back to. I don't know. Anyway, Rob, it's now official. We have talked about it for a few months that it was whispers that he was going to be in it. It's official now. What's your take on it, and where do you think they're going to go with it?
Keep in mind, I know nothing about this movie. I don't know anything about the script. I know nothing about the storyline. I've just seen those pictures that came out of Scotland that's doubling for New York. Fine. But I think it's really interesting because, remember, Bruce Banner is a scientist, a very good scientist. Yeah. And when we met him in Avengers, you know, he was off when Black Widow had to go find him. I think the idea that since no one knows Peter Parker, I would imagine that Peter Parker and Bruce Banner end up in some kind of a professional relationship in this movie. Like maybe they're working together on a scientific project, or he's teaching at a university if Peter Parker's in school. I'll bet they have some kind of, and there might even be a mentor-student relationship. And the thing, what's really interesting about that is, of course, Peter knows all about Bruce Banner. You know, knows all about the Hulk.
He knows all about the Avengers. He was an Avenger.
Yeah, he was an Avenger, and he knows what happened with Thanos, and yet Bruce Banner doesn't know who the hell he is.
Right.
And there's no way he can't convince him. But when he says, I'm actually Spider-Man, he's like, wait a minute, you were Spider, did you fight Thanos? Like, I didn't know it was you. You know, we didn't know it was that. I think is going to be, from a storytelling standpoint, really interesting. But at the same time, you know, it would be Spider-Man that could say, you know, in New York, when the Black Order shows up, you weren't really help to us. You couldn't turn into the Hulk. And we got our asses handed to us. And I ended up on a spaceship, and I had to go to an alien planet because you couldn't do your job.
Where I died.
Yeah, where I died, where I went into nothingness for 5 years, and it was your fault. And that's really interesting to me. So I don't know how that's going to work. But he'd say, like, I understand in the 5 years during the snap, you put yourself together and you learn how to integrate Bruce Banner into the Hulk. But we need the Savage Hulk. It could be Peter Parker that says the Earth needs the Hulk to Hulk out when danger comes.
And maybe always angry.
Yeah, and maybe they work on something together where they try and figure out how you need to be able to Hulk out and then bring it back in. I could see that in a way, Peter Parker being rediscovered by Bruce Banner could be beneficial, where Spider-Man has something to add, and maybe at the end of the movie, it's that relationship that allows Hulk to become himself, the Savage Hulk, the Hulk we want. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying that's a way they could go.
Because one of the things that makes the Hulk such an interesting character is not his absolute power, right? I mean, we see that in World War Hulk. I mean, it's Hulk. But it's the roll of the dice you're taking utilizing Hulk. Sentry, they did it great with Thunderbolts, where at the end of Thunderbolts, they're like, hey, it'd be really great if we could have Sentry pop out. And Bob's like, okay, yeah, I could pop out Sentry, but if I do, we're running the risk of the other guy, Void, popping out. We can't do that. The whole notion of, okay, Hulk's the ultimate nuclear option. Great. But you're rolling the dice a little bit because nobody really controls Hulk. You can maybe guide him a little bit. Maybe the inner Bruce Banner voice will steer him in the right direction. But if you bring out Hulk to beat up a big bad guy in the street, there's as good of a chance that he's going to bring down 7 buildings while beating that one guy.
Right.
And I miss that unpredictable factor as well. Not just Savage Hulk, but the unpredictable nature of it.
You know what? I would love it if their relationship is a central focus to this movie somehow. And like, they need Hulk with what's coming. You know, Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars. I would love the fact that in some big, whatever's happening in Avengers Doomsday, if someone's down for the count, you know, and Spider-Man and Hulk show up, and we know that Hulk is ready to ready to rumble, so to speak, because that's going to be a huge crowd-pleasing moment.
Yeah.
Like if you end Spider-Man with Hulk and Spider-Man with some knowing that Hulk's back, baby, and then you play it out like he doesn't show up in Doomsday until the end with the Hulk, and that's like maybe that's the final scene or the post-credit sequence or something. That's a moment when people are like, on your left. That's right. And I want to see that. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but it could be dope.
All right, guys. Question is for you. It's now official. Mark Ruffalo is returning for Spider-Man. I mean, that means the Spider-Man movie is getting kind of populated because we got him, we got Scorpion, we got John Bernthal's Punisher, we now got Hulk. I'm getting kind of excited about it. We're going to talk more about Spider-Man in just a little bit. But before we do, guys, question is for you. What is your thoughts about all this, about Ruffalo joining again as the Hulk? Where do you think they're going to go with Hulk in this thing? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, over the weekend, a lot of pictures have been leaked out of Tom Holland. They're shooting Spider-Man Brand New Day right now of Tom Holland's new Spider-Man suit. Here's a couple of them that came out. This is from Threads. Buttloads of behind-the-scenes pictures of Spider-Man, and, you know, I've hit the internet with him in the new suit. All right. My first impression is it's a Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
I often get asked, John, what's your favorite iteration of the Spider-Man suits in movies? To me, honestly, I couldn't tell you one from the other. I really couldn't. As long as I can look at the costume and clearly see it's a Spider-Man costume, that's all I really care about. I look at this. Now, obviously, I can tell you the difference between this and, you know, Spider-Man's Infinity War costume because it was the stupid Iron Man suit, the Iron Spider suit. I can tell you the difference of that one. All the other ones, I don't really care. It looks fine. And by the way, the reason I hesitate calling these leaks is Marvel even put out a video. Did you see this?
Where
the door opens on this
yeah.
downstage and Tom Holland comes walking into the line. It's like, are we ready? Like wearing the Spider-Man outfit. So they showed that. So I don't know if these are so much leak pictures as much as they're letting it get out there.
I think that they look pretty much like the on-set photographer took them.
Yeah, they look like official behind the scenes.
They're really nice. Rather than putting out shitty pictures, because they're shooting on the streets in Scotland, you know, and you can see there's tons of people watching. There was a video, I don't know if you saw it, of a kid dressed in a Spider-Man suit, a little kid that he comes up to, and there's a great interactive moment. I mean, they knew this was going to happen, and they preempted all the crazy people trying to get photographs. What they did was they got rid of the value of paparazzi pictures by doing this.
That is why I always say, and I've said this for a long time, I remember when Marvel was originally to put out, I can't remember which trailer. I think it might have been the first Infinity War trailer. They were going to put it out and launch it, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me in the live chat, guys, if I'm wrong about this. They were going to launch it with an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But word got out that somebody got their hands on the trailer. And instead of waiting 4 more days to put out the trailer with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they decided, screw it, launch it now. Launch it now. Because you want to be the one putting it out. You've got to be in control of the narrative. And you've got to, you know, just get ahead of it. And if you do, well, now all those bootlegs are completely useless. Oh, thank you. Zelda Master in the live chat is correct. It wasn't the first one for it wasn't the first one for Infinity War. It was for the first trailer for Age of Ultron. That's what it was for. Thank you, Zelda Master, and everybody else in the live chat who knew that. And I think to your point, Rob, I love the way you phrased that. By releasing these clear, bring these up again. These clear, beautiful pictures. By the way, remember Spencer that we had on the show before to talk? His wife, Laura, one of Anne's best friends, her full-time job is a Hollywood unit production photographer. This is her job. She does this stuff all the time. But by putting these images out officially, these beautiful high-res close-up pictures, leaked pictures have no value now.
No, yeah, they don't. No one cares.
Unless you're going to show, unless you got a sneak peek of the first Scorpion in costume look or something like that. But now, any of these far away, like we've gotten from Supergirl, these far away, blurry, through a potato pictures that we all eat up because that's all we got. By putting these pictures up now, all these leaked ones have no value. No one's going to care. It's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I think so too. And plus, there's still great behind the scenes photos. They control the narrative. Like, look, this picture right here, this is a dope picture. It gives you a look at the whole costume. You can see it. You can see it harks back to the classic suit.
And you know what? I want to say this too about this picture. This picture right here. You know exactly where the light source is if you look at his junk. If you look at his junk, you can see exactly. I just want to just reemphasize that for everybody. This doubles down that you know exactly where the light source is coming from if you look at his junk. Just want to throw that out there.
It's enlightening.
Anyway, please continue.
It's enlightening. It's enlightening.
It's enlightening.
No, but I mean, you release this kind of stuff, and this is better for the marketing for the film. It gets people excited, and not only that, you've turned you've turned it into a community event. You see all the people locally where they're shooting, and they're all excited, and the kid gets to meet his idol, and I mean, it's a brilliant way to go. And with this, if they're going to do the same thing when Mark Ruffalo's on set, they can show him do the same thing in motion capture things, and you get people excited. I mean, look at this picture. This is an officially sanctioned photo taken by an on-set photographer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what a great picture. And you can be like, look at this cool new web shoot.
Yeah, that's Britain's ass.
Yeah.
That's Britain's ass. By the way, totally childish, but I just thought of this and I want to put it out there. Instead of referring to Spider-Man's junk, I'm now going to use, I'm very proud of this. I just thought of this in my head.
Oh, no.
Check out Spider-Man's Daily Bugle. That's how I'm going to refer to it now instead of junk. I patent that. It's whatever. I'm 6 years old. Go fuck yourself. Okay.
Man.
You just made the anyway, you know what the other thing about that one picture was? The last one that was up? You can see Holland's having a blast.
This one?
He's having a blast.
That's the one. You can see he's having a blast.
You know, we're not going to be inside sound stages and shoot the whole movie on a stage like they did for No Way Home. They're out in the city streets. You got the energy of people watching. I'm sure when somebody else cut, the bystanders applaud. They're probably having a great time.
Oh, by the way, I honestly don't know the answer to this question. It's not a rhetorical question. Are they actually, they're filming this in Europe, are they not?
Yeah, in Scotland.
Yeah, because they moved, remember, they moved all their production from Hollywood to Atlanta, and a whole bunch of the MCU was shot in Atlanta. And then recently they announced they're now moving all their production over to Europe.
Yeah, I don't know if this is in Glasgow, but they said wherever they're at, they've made it look like the New York City streets.
Well, they did in Hamilton. Cool. I'm sure they could do it there. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We're getting our first look at Tom Holland in the Spider-Man costume, and I think it looks good. But then again, I honestly, if I was held my feet to the fire and I had to do a trivia thing about which Spider-Man movie is each of the costumes from, I honestly couldn't care less and I couldn't tell. But hey, it looks like Spider-Man looks good. And I think it's brilliant, to Rob's point, that they are bringing out these official high-res, high-quality photos to kind of undermine any leak stuff. Anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about the shots we've been seeing? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Fantastic Four came out, of course, last weekend, and it had a solid opening weekend, especially considering the circumstances about nobody cares about Fantastic Four. It's kind of an out-of-date property. All the previous iterations have been terrible and failed and all that kind of stuff. And it came out and made well over $100 million at the box office opening weekend. It was solid. But question was, how's it going to do in its second weekend? Now, one of the things we looked at that made us think that the second weekend could be pretty good was numbers like this. 87%. I mean, the people clearly really enjoy this movie. I know I loved it. 87% critic rating. More importantly, though, 92% audience rating. I think audience ratings are very hard to read, but I don't really care about them unless they're under 60 or over 90.
Yeah.
If it's under 60, I think that's notable. If it's over 90, I think that's notable. But 92% A- cinema score, just like Superman did. So the question had been going into the second weekend, how would it do? And it didn't have a great second weekend. Now, it was still, if I bring over this chart here and take a look at this, it was still number one at the box office, and it still made $40 million. That's great. I mean, that puts it in the top tier of the biggest opening weekends for a lot of films this year. Made $40 million, outgrossing Bad Guys at $22 million. Disappointed that The Naked Gun didn't do better. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to make $40 million opening weekend, but I was hoping better for this because it's a pretty damn funny movie. Superman in its like fourth weekend, still made another 13.9, only took a 44% drop, whatever. But here's the number that everybody's talking about. 66% drop. 66% drop. Now, this is surprising because, again, if you look at the Bad Guys and you look at Naked Gun, it's not like Bad Guys or Naked Gun was eating up all the box office. The number 2 and number 3 movies combined made $39 million, which is less than what Fantastic Four made, but that means the number 2 and number 3 movies combined only ate up $39 million of box office. It's not like the second place movie made $39 million and the third place movie made $35 million for it ate up $70, $80 million of box office. Only $39 million eaten up because of the number 2 and number 3 films. And also surprising, again, because of those numbers that we just looked at. High 80% rating critically. 90s, 92% audience rating. A- cinema score. Audiences like this movie. It's a statistical fact. Audiences like this movie. Critics like this movie. It's a fun time. I still haven't gotten around to seeing it for a third time yet. Ann and I both want to. I've seen it twice. I want to see it for a third time. But it took a significant 66% drop. Now, to put that into perspective, this marks the 8th biggest drop that Marvel's had. Not its biggest drop, not its second biggest drop, but as we pull up this chart here, its 8th biggest drop. Of course, the biggest drop, I still shake my head about this. The Marvel's having a 78.1% drop. And I still contend that is not a terrible movie. Certainly not one of their better ones, but I don't think it's a terrible movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was a terrible movie, took nearly a 70% drop. Captain America: Brave New World took a 68.3% drop, also not a very good movie. Black Widow took a 67.8% drop. Thor: Love and Thunder took a 67.7% drop. Spider-Man: No Way Home took a 67.5% drop. Now, a lot of people will look at that one and say, wait a minute, Spider-Man: No Way Home made almost $2 billion. Why did it have such a big second weekend drop-off? The reason that movie had such a massive second weekend drop-off is because of just how big the opening weekend was. Like, literally everybody saw that movie on opening weekend. So you were going to have a significant second weekend drop-off. Anyway, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. 67% drop. And then down in the number 8 spot now, Fantastic Four takes a 66% drop. A little bit more than Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, that took a 63.3, and Eternals that took a 67 or 62.3. So 8th biggest drop-off in Marvel history. And I would argue this. I think that Fantastic Four movie, I think it might be the second best movie on this list. I think I might put Eternals a little bit in front of it. Now, granted, I like Eternals more than most people do. I think you do as well, Rob. I think you and I like that movie more than most people do. But quality-wise, I would put this movie on equal playing field with Spider-Man: No Way Home. I might even say I enjoyed this movie a little bit more than Spider-Man: No Way Home. So anyway, 8th biggest drop. If you want to put into context of how that's done, though, if you want to put a positive spin on it, if you wanted to put a positive, here's the positive spin you can put on it. Look at these numbers. This is the last number of MCU movies that have come out. Now, if you take Deadpool and Wolverine out of the equation, which was a very special film for a lot of special reasons, that made 1.3 billion. It's made more than 4 movies ago, The Marvels. It's going to make more money than Captain America: Brave New World, and it's going to make more money than Thunderbolts. I mean, it's only in its second week, just finished the second weekend, just crossed its 10 days. And it's already at 368. It's going to make more than all those. If you wanted to put a positive spin on it, you can say, with the hit and miss, on again, off again, mediocre quality output that Marvel's been putting out, well, this is going to be bigger than anything they've put out in the last couple of years. And it's a sign that Marvel could be heading back in the right direction, building off of the quality that Thunderbolts had. That's a legitimate way to look at it. That's a positive spin if you want to look at it. But still, Rob, you can't get around the fact that it is a 66% drop.
Yeah.
For a movie that was well received.
Right.
And didn't have a lot coming out against it this weekend. So anyway, you look at these numbers. What's your takeaway from it? What's the worst way of looking at this? What's the best way of looking at it? How do you see it?
Well, I think the worst way of looking at it is that it had a 66% drop. But on the other hand, here's my positive take on this. I mean, it's still, according to, Box Office Mojo, as I had here, the worldwide gross of it right now is 368 million.
Right.
And change, almost 307.
10, 11 days into its release.
Yeah. It's going to play out for the rest of the month. And depending, we've seen movies like something like Greatest Showman just was a consistent earner. It didn't do very well its opening weekend and continued to play. I would imagine that Superman and Fantastic Four will continue to do business throughout the month. But remember, I look at this is now phase 6. This is the beginning of a new phase in the Marvel, starting with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was like the end of phase 5 or whatever. This is the beginning of phase 6. So you have to look at this as in my mind, it's a new reset. All those other movies are from post-Endgame films. Deadpool and Wolverine is an anomaly. I don't count that.
Yeah, that was a very special set of circumstances with a very special conglomeration of...
Yeah, and you're dealing... You also had the 25 years of the 24 years of the X-Men and Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. That predates the Marvel Cinematic Universe by a long way. And then you had the friendship that him and Ryan Reynolds had. So that's an anomaly. But this is the beginning of... This is ramping up. The real telltale sign for me is I think this movie's going to end up being just fine. I know everyone online screaming out, it's another failure for Marvel. It's not really in this, because if you're looking at, like you pointed out, all the numbers to all the DC Universe movies prior to Superman, the superhero genre is, I don't call it fatigue, but it's old. I mean, if you think about it, between two companies, how many superhero movies have we had since 2008? 50? 60? I mean, of just the same genre of film. And it's like, it's not that it's fatigued. It's like there's only so many stories you can tell within a superhero paradigm. There's superheroes and there's villains. And I think Thunderbolts was interesting because it had something more to say. It did something different with the paradigm, with the genre, and looking for feelings or whatever. Now, what I find interesting is Fantastic Four is leading into Spider-Man, that's leading into Avengers Doomsday, that's leading into Secret Wars.
By the way, if I remember just for a second, I think there's an important note because of something you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So this weekend also, Sony has verified and confirmed they are keeping that release date. That's interesting because you guys will remember that originally Doomsday was going to come out before Spider-Man Brand New Day. They moved Doomsday, and a lot of people have speculated that they might also move Spider-Man to still come out after Doomsday. Sony has doubled down and confirmed they're keeping that summer of next year release date. So it is indeed coming out before Doomsday and will lead into it.
Yeah, and so Fantastic Four is probably going to at least earn $500 million, I would imagine, overall. Probably pretty easy, maybe even $600 million. Which puts it might not be the runaway hit, but I don't think they expected this movie to gross $1 billion. It's coming off of why would you think that? Fantastic Four movies have not traditionally. This is outgrossed the two Tim Story Fantastic Fours, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, it's outgrossed all the previous Fantastic Four movies, but most importantly too, it's in not as dire, but it's in a little bit of a somewhat similar situation that Superman was in.
Yeah.
Since Endgame, and guys, you know, I am no Marvel hater. I'm just calling it as I see it, okay? Marvel has been, since Endgame, to put it generously, hit or miss. Gone are the days that every MCU film that was coming out, we expected to be awesome. We now live in the era where every MCU movie that comes out, we hope is good. And it's dealing with that. And again, I just want to bring this chart up again, one quick second here. Again, taking Deadpool and Wolverine out of the equation for all the reasons you listed, Rob. I think the quality of Thunderbolts and the quality of this movie, because this movie's going to end up over 500 million.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets to 6.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's going to end up over 500 million, which will be the highest grossing movie they've had in years. It shows that at least they've got things rebuilding and they're heading back in the right direction, because you can't put out 6 years of mediocrity and not suffer consequences. The question is, can you rebuild from those consequences? I think Thunderbolts was the first step in that. And then Fantastic Four. Again, I'm still kind of shocked by the 66% drop. There's no painting that pretty. A 66% drop is a 66% drop. But it at least shows that the MCU is heading back in the right direction.
Yeah, but I would also say another thing you have to take into consideration is you have to go look at the first films of all of their characters. Like whether it's Captain America, Iron Man made 500 million plus because it was the beginning of the thing. But if you go back and you look at Captain America, Thor, I mean, Black Panther was the first introductory movie, but that was teed up by Civil War. So you had people who already met Black Panther, but these new characters, the first time we meet them, I think you have to more equate. You have to look at those box office numbers, because traditionally, I even think about those intro movies. It is like Captain America: The First Avenger. I think Doctor Strange did like 600 million. It didn't make 700 million. It made 600 and something because he was a new character. And to me, Fantastic Four, you have to think, you got to look at something like a Doctor Strange, where a character has not been introduced in the MCU yet, and look at those numbers, because we don't know who these people are. We haven't had a chance to develop an affection for them, and we're coming off of 3 previous Fantastic Four movies that people were not that excited about. So in my mind, they did everything they could to launch this new super team. And that I think that when people catch up with this on cable and they see it as it plays out through its lifetime, it's on Disney Plus or whatever, people might develop more of an affection for this film. So by the time they decide to do Fantastic Four 2, or we see Reed Richards again and the team in Avengers Doomsday, people are going to like them a lot more, because they're going to they will have engendered the love in the audience that the audience doesn't have yet.
Yeah, I think right now, Spider-Man Brand New Day, which doesn't come out for almost a year, is in a much better place already, because Thunderbolts was very well received. Again, nobody knew any of the characters. Half of them were all reject Disney Plus show characters, whatever, but the movie was great. So you finally had, because it was coming off a really disappointing Captain America movie, in my opinion, but you had a great Thunderbolts movie. You have what I think is a great Fantastic Four movie. And now you're seeing that in the box office. The box office is starting to get higher. I think all this bodes very well for Spider-Man No Way Home. I think when Spider-Man, or Brand New Day, I should say, when Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out, I think you're going to start to see the return to the traditional Marvel box office numbers that we've become accustomed to. And then and it's a big if that movie's great, sky's the limit for what Doomsday can be. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree, because, people are going to catch up with Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts on streaming. And they're going to have good times with those films. They're going to enjoy their time with those movies. And it's going to lead up to Spider-Man, over the course of the next 11 months. And I think people will once again find that both Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, those are fun. Those are fun for the whole family in a way. And I think that they'll bring that back, I hope. I think the real problem that all superhero movies have is just the paradigm of a superhero movie. When superheroes have to fight supervillains, there's not a lot of room to move. I mean, Fantastic Four offered something interesting. Galactus was not your traditional mustache twirling villain,
Right.
and neither was the Sentry. And so there was more ways to move. And I think that Avengers Doomsday is going to have a different feel, in that, sure, Dr. Doom's a villain, but he has a plan. He's going to be more like, there's going to be much more palace intrigue happening than just like, we have to defeat the bad guy. There's going to be a lot more going on because the bad guy is like, I'm going to remake the world in my own image. And he's going to succeed for a while. And it's going to be interesting. And you're going to see the X-Men fighting the Avengers, fighting the whomever, and Doom making Battle World, and the Loki, and the TVA, and whatever the hell is going to happen. So I think people are going to be interested.
By the way, I want to address this because one of our viewers in the live chat, DeToad, wrote, it's going to have Hulk and Punisher, talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's going to have Hulk and Punisher. Of course, everybody's going to go to see it. Based on what? Hulk was in She-Hulk. Not everybody watched that.
Yeah.
Punisher was just in Daredevil again. It had lower ratings than Agatha all along. I'm sorry. This idea that just put in these characters and everybody's going to go to see it, that's been proven false over and over and over again. So just throwing Hulk in it ain't going to completely move the needle. It can be good. Putting Punisher in it, that's exciting to me, but people didn't flock to watch the new Daredevil season just because Punisher was in it. They just didn't. I mean, that's a fact. That's a statistical fact. I love Hulk. I love Punisher. But yeah, if you think just dropping them in that movie means everybody's going to go to see it, that ain't true. That's simply statistically not true. I mean, everybody will go see it because hopefully the MCU's building up again. They're reestablishing their reputation of quality, hopefully. And hopefully that movie's going to be great. But if you think just dropping in Punisher or Hulk is going to automatically equal everybody's going to go to see it, according to what? Show me any data point that shows that's true. And I just don't think it exists yet. But I still think it's good that they're going to be in there, though.
Yeah.
Makes me excited. But I was going to see the movie anyway.
Well, I'm excited from story potential. You know, it's going to be, I think, a movie that's going to be more grounded, and he's really going to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and there doesn't have to be some world-ending cataclysm. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to focus more on Peter Parker establishing who he is now in the world. I find that really interesting. Take the Spider-Man out of it. How does Peter Parker navigate the world when he's been erased from existence?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting... I mean, that would be an interesting movie to make that has nothing to do with the MCU, that somebody wakes up one day and they find out their entire existence has been erased. They don't know why, but what do you do? What do you do? How do you go get an ID when you have no way to prove you're alive?
I know
That's
people.
interesting. Yeah, I know you. Well,
they'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this turn of events with the Fantastic Four box office? Again, if you want to look at it from a positive point of view, hey, this is a growing box office. It's done better than, again, aside from the Deadpool movie, which is a bit of an anomaly. You take all the previous MCU movies that come out recently, and it's going higher than all of them. It's going to be the first one to cross 500 million in a while. They're rebuilding their quality. But if you want to take off the rose-colored glasses, though, it's still a 66% drop.
Yep.
A 66% drop, which marks the 8th biggest drop of any MCU movie. And that's despite the fact that it had really high critic ratings and extremely high audience ratings. Not the best sign. Anyway, however you guys choose to look at that, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we will bid adieu to the great writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, my friend.
there's only 3 more Campea shows before I see Weapons.
Thursday, man. Ann and I got our tickets for Weapons. I'm so excited about it. All right, man. Thanks a lot. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Yep. Yes, I'll be here.
All right, guys. With that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
BMC says Superman just became the first non-Batman related DC movie to cross 300 million domestic in 7 years since Aquaman in 2018. It needs 70 million more to beat the Batman. Think it happens?
70 might be, I mean, remember, going into its 5th week, 70 might be a little bit too far of a thing to go. Again, you got to keep in mind the context in which it came out. It came out in a completely decimated landscape for anything DC related in the movie theaters, right? Everybody had given up on the DCEU. Nobody went to go see any of the movies they put out. You even had The Rock in it back when The Rock was still really hot and it couldn't even make $400 million. So for it to cross that landmark in just their first movie out of this brand new DCU, listen, I gotta say, I think that's pretty impressive. So, but getting another 70, that I think might be a little bit of a bridge too far. I hope it can, but I don't think it will. All right,
Okay.
What's next?
Anonymous says, when you saw Michael at CinemaCon, he looked just like Michael. Was there no difference? If so, this movie's going to be crazy.
Listen, I'm not going to say there was no difference, but when I'm looking up at the screen, I wasn't completely sure if I was looking at actual real footage of
Right.
Michael Jackson
Like concert footage or
or
whatever.
if I was watching the filmed for movie footage of Michael Jackson's nephew playing Michael Jackson. I couldn't tell. It turns out it was his nephew playing him. Again, getting an actor who looks just like the person they're playing, I don't care what anybody says ever, and I know this is the unpopular opinion, but it's often lonely being right, doesn't really matter that much. Having the person look just like the person they're playing does not make the movie any better. Like, I'm sorry, Joaquin Phoenix looked nothing like Johnny Cash.
But you could believe it was him.
Yeah, because of the way he played it.
Right.
Right? He didn't look anything like him.
Yeah.
Not a thing. And yet it's one of the best musical biopics ever made. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But man, he looks like his uncle. It is crazy how much he looks like his uncle. Mischievous in the live chat is also pointing out Rami Malek did not look like Freddie Mercury. He did everything to emulate his movements and mannerisms. If
And
you
the
just looked at
features.
a picture of him, no way that looks like him.
Yeah. He tried to manipulate like his facial expressions to
Yeah.
match, you know.
He played it great. That's the important thing. But as far as looking like his Uncle Michael, holy crap, they made his nephew look like his Uncle Michael. It is crazy. All right, what's next?
Okay, Yikes is a three-parter here. John, I'm confused when you say James Gunn needs to focus on being a CEO. Lots of directors have big production companies. And I see Gunn, DC the same way. Steven Spielberg is always focused on directing for his company, Amblin. But Spielberg also produces other movies through Amblin, Jurassic World, Twister's Hamnet. Same thing with Ridley Scott and his company, Scott Free. Even Ari Aster has 3 movies coming out this year. One he directed, 2 he produced. 3. Okay. I don't think Gunn would have taken the job at DC if he wasn't going to write direct all the time. That's why Peter Safran is at DC too. Gunn is a filmmaker first and executive second. How is DC any different from Amblin? There's a big difference between producer and executive.
If you think there's any comparison between the scope and the scale of Amblin Entertainment and DC of Warner Brothers, you're crazy. Every actor today has their own shingle. Sure. Brad Pitt has his shingle. I forget, what's the name of Brad Pitt's production company again?
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, look that up for me. It's got, you've got J.J. Abrams has his own shingle, Bad Robot, right? He's got his own production company. You've got
Plan B.
What's that? Plan B. That's right. You got Margot Robbie has her own production company in Lucky Gent, I think it's called Lucky Gent Entertainment. I think that's the name of it. Like almost everybody in Hollywood has their own production company. The Rock.
Smokehouse Pictures is George Clooney.
It's George Clooney. Is Smokehouse. The Rock has what? $7 Productions.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's got their own shingle that works completely around them. The Warner Brothers subsidiary company DC is an entirely different scale. An entirely different scale. You cannot compare, well, Brad Pitt's acting in a movie and he's the head of he's not the head of a studio, he's the head of a production company.
Yeah. That's way different.
And it's a much smaller production company. James Gunn is not just the head of some production company. He's the head of a full-blown major Hollywood studio. Yeah. They are radically different in scale. And the job he's being asked to do is a radically different in scale job. Yes, Peter Safran is his co-CEO to kind of look after more of the business end of stuff. That's great. But James Gunn is meant to shepherd 10, 15, 20 movies in total. There's a reason Kevin Feige doesn't jump behind the director's chair. Because Kevin Feige is busy shepherding the overall vision of the entire company. That's what James Gunn is supposed to be doing. Kevin Feige may not have a co-CEO of Marvel, but he has people looking after the business stuff that he needs done. His job is to set the vision and the direction of the creative. And I love James Gunn. I am a massive James Gunn fan. And I'm thrilled that he's the head of DC, and I love what he did with Superman. But if you're trying to compare Steven Spielberg acting as a president of his own shingle, if you're trying to compare Brad Pitt acting and also acting as the head of his own shingle. If you're trying to compare that to the scope and the scale of what DC is as a major Hollywood studio, there is no comparison. It's a completely different scenario. You're trying to compare apples to spaceships. So yeah, I am concerned. I'm a little bit concerned of James Gunn being too involved in this, doing the specific jobs that he should be having other people do, and he oversees and directs all of it, much like Kevin does with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, I'm not saying the sky is falling. We've only had one film out. I'm only giving you my projections about what I would be concerned about if it unfolded in a certain way in years to come. We're only one movie in. We got to wait and see how it all goes. But yes, that is something that I would be concerned about. And no, you cannot compare it to the Margot Robbies or J.J. Abrams or Steven Spielbergs, because their little production shingles are not nearly on the same scale. It's a totally different task. All right, what's next?
We got, is it Chris? Yes. John, hear me out. I've got an idea for a non-sequel to Superman. How about the next film we introduce an angry older Batman that they fight for a bit before joining forces to fight Doomsday? We can also introduce a new Wonder Woman. It sounds
Brilliant.
like it's got a hook. It's got a hook.
See, people say there's no originality left.
It's got a hook.
And yet there we have it. All right, what's next?
I'd like to add a thread of drama. Their mothers have the same name. Mr.
What?
Snyder.
Whoa. Now you're getting crazy.
Well, we have to push boundaries.
Reel it in a bit, Voico. Don't go off the
You know, James Gunn, he's got to run a company. He needs writers.
All right, what's next?
Mr. Snivy, has there been a time you went to a movie's very last screening the day before they pulled by your local theater? I did this with both Conclave and Colorful Stage, a Miku who can't sing. I don't know that I kept track of it. It probably was close, but I don't know.
I don't think I ever have for a movie I had not seen yet. There have been a number of movies that I've gone like, oh, this is the last day that's playing, and it's a movie I like. I want to see it on the big screen one more time. That's happened to me a number of times, but I can't think of one where it's a movie I hadn't seen yet, and then I caught it on its last day. I can't think of one that I did that with.
I saw this small indie film called Tokyo Cowboy, and it was its last day. Now that I think about it, there were other showings.
It was also its first day.
Yeah,
but
that movie did not make a whole lot of money.
All right, what's next?
You did that. Yes. Super Nintendo Chalmers. Hello, John. How about Commissioner Gordon for Henry Cavill? Might be interesting to have him closer in age and more of a hands-on commish.
No, I don't see Henry. I love Henry, but I don't see him as a Commissioner Gordon. Not at all. You need somebody. Obviously, they've already had J.K. Simmons, so that's out of the running there. But you need somebody like unto a J.K. Simmons. You need somebody like an unto a Jeffrey Wright, who is a great Commissioner Gordon in the Reeveverse. You need somebody like that. I just don't see that as a fit for Commissioner Gordon at all, like even remotely. Again, if you were remaking, what was the name of the show? Was it just called Gotham? Yeah. If you were making that Gotham thing where Batman was still a child and it's a younger commissioner, sure. But no, you need somebody a little bit more. You know who I would love as Commissioner Gordon? Bruce Greenwood. Bruce Greenwood. Jonathan, pull up a picture of him so people know who I'm talking about. I think he might be a little old for Gordon now, maybe. But I think,
yeah, of course.
I think Bruce Greenwood, you got a picture of him available?
Yeah.
I think Greenwood would make a great Commissioner Gordon in the
that,
DCU.
And then there's another one where, because he was in Star Trek. He was
he was the Pike. He was Pike in Star Trek.
Pike. Here's him without a beard.
He was like great in Double. He's in everything. What was that one he was in recently? Was Something's Game?
Gerald's Game.
What's that? Gerald's Game. Yeah, he was great in that. I love Bruce Greenwood. He's awesome. I think he'd make a great. But anyway, it doesn't have to be Commissioner Gordon, or maybe a Paul Walter Hauser, as people in the live chat are now saying. But somebody like that, I just don't see it as a good fit for Henry. All right, what's next? Woo! Somebody, Bryan Cranston as a Commissioner Gordon.
Nice.
That would work. Bryan Cranston would be a great Commissioner Gordon too. Like Jared Harris, Gary Oldman.
Oh, Jared Harris would be awesome.
A lot of people. Hugh Grant. Yeah, I even like Hugh Grant as that. A lot of people put in some good recommendations. All right, what's next?
Okay, sorry. I was just doing a Hugh Grant as Gordon impression in my head, and now I'm back to earth. Norman. Oh, I got it. Norman.
Well, now don't be silly, Batman.
Are you saying Norman Osborne, AUS, Australia? Hi, John. First time writing in from Australia.
Oh, thank you, man.
Just commenting on the YouTube ban our government put in. I think it's smart, as you said yourself, that children under 16 can't get recommended videos, keeping them out of dangerous algorithms. Love the show.
Yeah, so we talked about this last week about how Australia is implementing like a social media ban for people under 16. And they weren't originally going to include YouTube, in case you didn't catch that episode we did, but now they are including YouTube in that ban. Now, that does not mean that people under 16 can't use YouTube. It simply means social media companies like YouTube are barred from allowing people under 16 to create an account, which means they will not get targeted at kids like video recommended videos and stuff. They'll just have to get a general YouTube algorithm kind of stuff. So that's not bad. Again, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. But I understand the sociology principles of it. It's just gonna be interesting to see how this works out as a social experiment for how the rest of the world approaches it later. All right, what's next?
All right, so I won't read all of these because it's a 6-parter, but we'll get the gist here. And thank you for your support. Hey, John, this is my first ever message after watching since December of 2018, January 2019.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man.
From 10th grade, wow, to college graduation. Your show's been a daily constant during study breaks, late nights, rough days, just needing something steady, honest, and familiar. Found your channel from a troll video. I was clicked to laugh ready to roast you, but you owned it. Explained your view honestly. I said, fair enough, watched more and never stopped watching. I've been genuinely baffled at your takes at times, but that became part of the experience. I started anticipating the rants, experiential events, X-Actor, X-Roll, race swapping, Moonfall, Madam Web, Craven Thunder Force, Rebel Moon, and more. And a lot of this is like
greats.
A review of all the the greatest hits. But just went on to say this final part. I could write a dozen more, but for my first message, this is eating my bank. Thank you, John, for the rants, laughs, years. You made a real difference in my life.
Oh, thank you so much for that, man. And thank you for writing in. Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to somebody about the Aquaman thing the other day. You know, I remember people would get mad at me after a while. Whenever we would talk about Aquaman, I would bring up the fact that, say, remember, I thought Aquaman would be successful, but I never thought it would hit $1 billion. It's like, John, why do you keep saying that? You've been saying that for like 2 years. Every time you bring up Aquaman, you bring up the fact that you didn't think it would make $1 billion. Well, because I think it's important that when I hold, like, I don't sweep anything under the rug. When I am wrong about something, I bring it up. I bring it up a lot because that's just the way I like to be. I like to say, hey, remember, I thought this, and I don't mind calling myself what I'm wrong. Now, the funny thing was, out of, several hundred movies come out every year. And I did not think Aquaman would make $1 billion, and it did. But for like 4 years after that, whenever we would talk box office, people would say, well, you're the guy who thought Aquaman wouldn't make $1 billion. It's like, you're right. 658 movies ago, I got one wrong. I'm sorry. And by the way, not a lot of people, very few people thought Aquaman would make $1 billion, but I was very vocal about it. I thought it could be successful. Didn't think it would make $1 billion. So when it did, I, for several years, kept bringing up, I didn't think Aquaman would make $1 billion because I think it's important. Like, look, I'm not afraid to highlight when I get things right, which is almost all the time. So, but if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to highlight when I got things right, I also like to make sure I highlight when I got something wrong. And so, like, when, I thought this one movie looked like trash. I didn't think this movie looked very good, and I ended up loving it. And so for the next number of weeks, whenever that movie comes out, I'm going to point out that I didn't think this movie looked like it was going to be very good. I didn't think this movie was going to be good, and it turned out it was great and it was wonderful. I think it's important to do that. So yeah, that's why I do it. Anyway, thank you so much for being a viewer of the channel for so long, man. And thank you for writing in. We really appreciate having you. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous who says, hey, John, can you give a breakdown on what you saw of Michael? This is at CinemaCon.
God, dude, that was a year and a half ago. Or a year, that, like, the big Michael presentation wasn't this year. It was last April. When they thought the movie was going to be coming out now, and now it's pushed off to next year. It was, God, there was concert footage. There was like meetings in lawyers' offices. There was like random dialogue going on. There was Michael walking through crowds of people. Again, it was like well over a year ago. So it's hard to remember all of it. But I remember we had our first glimpse of, why am I freezing on the actor's name who was just Goose's son in Top Gun Maverick?
And he was in The Offer.
Yeah, and he was in Fantastic Four.
Oh my gosh!
And he was. Why am I? I'm
Teller,
Miles Teller.
Miles Teller.
So I think Miles Teller had literally been on set for a day shooting the movie, and they still gave us a couple of shots of Miles Teller in there in the movie. So it was just remember, they were still in the beginning stages of filming the movie when they put that sizzle together. So it was just a lot of random imagery that we got, but it looked pretty epic in scope. All right, what's next?
Mike says, hi, I think Henry Cavill would make a great Jason Blood in the DCU. Just imagine his voice saying, gone, gone, the form of man, rise the demon. Is it estrigan or etrigan?
Etrigan.
Etrigan. I think a white streak of hair would look good on him, too.
Sure. Again, X actor and X role. Henry Cavill can play. Again, there are some roles that are just way outside of his type. Like I think Commissioner Gordon's not a good pick for him. I think playing Alfred is probably not a good pick for him. But you can list almost any 80% of the characters you could list, and I'm sure Henry Cavill would make a really good at that because he's just a really good actor. For that, other really good actors could play that role, maybe even play it better than Henry. But again, I'm just a big Henry Cavill fan, so put him in whatever. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Mike, we got Matan. The comment I made this week about the lack of colors in modern TV and shows was made after seeing the first look of Netflix's Pride and Prejudice. The costumes were brown as hell. The Regency era and Jane Austen adaptations are supposed to look vibrant. I would push back on that a little bit, though, because historically it was very conservative, and we're talking about Britain in the late 1800s. They wore a lot of tans, browns, grays, neutral colors. This wasn't like they're always at a ball. If you were walking around like you were at a ball all the time, you'd be very eccentric. And this isn't, antebellum South. So, that is pretty accurate.
The only thing I get in question is like when you use the phrase is supposed to be this. Says who? Again, listen, color palette is one of the many tools in the filmmaker's toolbox to convey tone, to convey feel, to convey temperature, all that kind of stuff. Like they want this movie to feel a certain way, and many tools will help them do that, and color palette is one of them. So, and listen, watch the movie. Like, you know what? Here's the thing. A lot of people complained about the color palette of Man of Steel, and I get it. But to me, the color palette that Zack Snyder chose for Man of Steel really fit the tone of the movie for me. This was a Clark Kent and a Kal-El that was more introspective, that was really on a journey, trying to even just discover who he was, and grim events were happening. And to me, Zack Snyder's chosen color palette for that movie fit the tone of what he was aiming for. And I just don't know that the brighter, more colorful palette of, say, James Gunn's Superman, which was great for Superman, would have worked as well for that. So again, color palette is just a tool to convey something, and we got to wait to see what the director is trying to convey before we pass any kind of judgment.
It's also a time, and I know where a lot of them are getting it because, if you look on like YouTube, there's a lot of like, well, in these movies from the 50s, look at how vibrant they are compared to today. But, 1965, those colors would have popped. But in 1965,
they were just getting out of black and white.
The sensibilities of the public was different, and it was hyper real. So like something like Singing in the Rain, yes, it pops to this day, but when you watch Singing in the Rain, you also know it's on a controlled set.
Yeah, and the art was different back then too.
It's different, and I understand that there are vibrant colors in real life, but it also depends. Like we're under bright lights, but you go into an office building, things are drab. It's not, it depends on your lighting, and if your lighting is accurate, it's going to be,
By the way, I just want to point out, Jude Lehman sent in a membership gift in the live chat. Thank you for that, Jude. Appreciate that, Jude. All right. What's next?
All right, we got Alazam saw James Gunn talking about what will be canon and are in the DCU. Us nerds may think it's fine, but the average viewer might get confused. Adding TV shows to the mix so early in the universe could turn people away. I'm a bit worried, especially after the MCU.
The big difference is this. James Gunn is going to never make the shows required homework to watch the movies.
Yep, that's it.
And that's the key. That's the key right there. You know, when you look at something like, let's say, Agatha All Along, right? There is no movie coming out in the MCU where you need to have watched Agatha All Along and in order to be able to understand what's going to be happening in this movie. That's where they totally drop the ball on the Marvels. Because even the commercials, even the trailers for the Marvels sent a clear message to the audience. These aren't just two new characters to you talking about Photon and Ms. Marvel. These are characters you're supposed to know already. That the trailers completely conveyed that you were supposed to know who Photon was. And you're supposed to know who Ms. Marvel is already, in as much as you know who Captain Marvel is. And for people who didn't watch Disney Plus, and most people don't, that instantly made it feel a little bit like, wait a minute, I'm lost here. I don't even know who these people are. It wasn't like a brand new Guardians of the Galaxy movie where you're not supposed to know who those characters are yet. This was a movie that made you feel like you were supposed to know what was going on. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, you watch the trailers for that. If you don't watch Disney Plus and you didn't see WandaVision, you're going, wait a minute, what the hell's going on with what? Wait, Wanda's Bat? When did Wanda be Bat? What's going on? It became absolute homework that you needed to watch WandaVision if you were going to even have a grasp of what was going on in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. That's where Marvel started to lose their way. Now, they have since now gone back and said, we're not going to be like that anymore. The shows are going to be the shows. The movies are going to be the movies. Do they live in the same universe? Yes, they do. But we're going to have the stories isolated for each other. Like somebody even asked Kevin Feige, hey, in Daredevil season 2, are they going to make reference to what happened in New York in Hell's Kitchen when Sentry dusted everybody or shadowed everybody? And Kevin Feige said, nope, there's going to be no reference to that in Daredevil. They're isolating them from each other more. James Gunn has already said, same universes? Yes. Will there be implications? Sure. But you're never going to feel like you need to watch the TV show in order to be able to watch the next movie. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the key. If he can pull that off, and that's an if, then they'll be fine, just like Marvel will be fine if they can create that distinction again. All right, what's next?
We got Blake, who says, finally got around to watching Sinners last night. Damn, what a movie. The best films to me not only tell great story, but transport you to the setting.
Oh, yeah.
There's an authenticity that's hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Coogler is elite.
Coogler is elite. Yeah, I may not be a huge fan of the second Black Panther movie, but that was made under extremely difficult situation. Obviously, with the passing of Chadwick Boseman and trying to pivot and all that kind of stuff. I still believe now in August that Sinners is the best film of the year. To your point, that we watched it just recently again. Why were we watching it? We just had a big friend get together barbecue over here last week, and we put on Sinners. We got our new TV in the living room.
Yeah, how's that working out?
Pretty good. We got the 100-inch TV in the new living room. We got the Sonos surround system, so we popped up Sinners on it because it's also visually a great
Your YouTube preview boxes are like the size of some people's
TVs. Yeah, they are. So we watched Sinners again, and it's like you're talking about, it transports you back to the era. There's that great scene when they're driving in the car. So you got Michael B. Jordan as one of the twins driving the car. You got the younger cousin with the guitar in the back seat. And you've got, what's the name of the Oscar nominated actor who was supposed to be in Blade and now is out anyway. And you had him in the front seat, and they start playing. They drive by the Chain Gang, and he starts going,
Yeah, because he feels
Delroy Lindo. He's
yeah.
going, right, that. And then he pulls out his guitar. It's like you just felt like you were in the era. It's just so good. I don't know that Sinners is going to end up being the best film of 2025 overall by the time the year is over, But I feel very good saying right now, as of August, it's still the best film of the year. All right, what's next?
Bartholomew says, "Hey, John, going off picks for Henry Cavill yesterday, I think he would be an amazing Jason Blood. Etrigan, from Knight of Camelot to current day, looking dapper in a suit. Plus the fun of being a demon in Justice League Dark. Hopefully the night side also current day."
Again, I mean, sure, but that's literally, like we already mentioned, that's literally a role you could put any actor in, and sure, you can drop Henry Cavill in that. I think there are 20 or 30 other characters who'd be even better fitted for, but hey, if they announce it tomorrow, I'd be happy because Henry Cavill's a great actor. All right, what's next?
CM Waters tried to see Bad Guys 2 and Naked Gun back-to-back on Regal Unlimited and was told there was a 90-minute waiting period between movies. I swear I'm one Pepsi spilling on me away from going fully digital. I mean, you still could have seen one of those.
Wait, like they're saying
you can't book them if they're 90 minutes apart.
If the end of one movie and the beginning of the next have to be more than 90 minutes apart,
which is weird. It might just be a Regal thing. I've never seen that on AMC.
That's definitely not an AMC thing, because I have definitely done double features where one starts like 45 minutes after the previous one ends. Hell, I've even done AMC double features where one movie, say, is starting at 7, which really means the start of the previews. And the other movie, the first movie, didn't end till like 7:15. But I knew I was fine because I knew the trailers were still playing in the new movie. I've double featured that and had no problem. If that is, first of all, let me say this. You're not going to run into that as a problem very often.
Right.
That you're double headering and the movie is less than 90 minutes apart. But I would say that seems like a fairly arbitrary thing for Regal to throw in there.
Yeah.
I would ask them what the rationale behind that is. That just seems like an unnecessary limitation. Double check with them. Ask to speak to the manager for some clarification on that. I'd be curious to know. Be polite, be nice, but ask for some clarification on that, because that sounds really odd to me that they would do that. All right, what's next?
Dad jokes. An awkward moment Marvel has to do one day. The Thing meets Korg. Looks long and hard at Thing. What the F are you, Thing? It's a long story. Korg starts to feel attraction towards Thing. Why are you looking at me like that?
That would be interesting to see Korg and Thing in the same thing. I don't know. Maybe the cosmic rays they got hit with also passed by Korg's home world many eons ago or something like that. I don't know. All right, what's next?
Manny says, I'm a huge F4 fan. I had tears watching it. However, I'm worried that the massive weekend 2 box office drop might cause Disney to freak out and change their plans for the future. Is it safe to say F4 will get a sequel, not including Doomsday and Secret Wars?
No. See, one of the true strengths of Marvel has always been they've never been reactionary. Ever. The Bob Chapek era brought about the produce as much as you can, as fast as you can era. That, I mean, really did a lot of damage to them. But they are going to look at this movie as a big success because the audience loved it and the critics loved it. And they know that will continue to pay dividends later with future MCU movies. It's going to help. The fact that the audience and the critics all loved it, that is going to help Spider-Man Brand New Day. They looked at Thunderbolts and said, okay, it only made this much money. They shouldn't have expected much because there's a bunch of rejects from old Disney Plus shows. But still, the audience loved it and the critics loved it. They knew that was going to pay dividends moving forward as well. So yeah, the thing that led to DCEU's failure, but was never a problem with Marvel, was never being reactionary. They didn't freak out at one movie's success and suddenly go, let's build everything around this one movie now. And they never freaked out at any one movie's failure. Let's completely change our plans. Kevin Feige develops a plan, and whether it's way bigger of a hit than they expected or ends up being an unexpected failure, they don't change plans. They trust the plan. So no, you're not going to, whatever their plans were for Fantastic Four before it opened, it's the same plans they have for Fantastic Four today, regardless of the second weekend drop off. All right, what's next?
Colin D says, confused by the second weekend drop of Fantastic Four, but also lines up similar to Spider-Man Homecoming's first and second weekends. No one worried about Homecoming, second weekend drop, box office performance. Why the change with F4? I think F4 is still in good shape.
Because
Homecoming did 117 opening weekend too, as well.
Here's the thing. Spider-Man No Way Home
Not No Way Home, but Homecoming.
Oh, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Spider-Man No Way Home had we talked about this a little bit earlier. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Spider-Man No Way Home. Oops, I put it into the wrong box. Let me
That's what she
bring this
said.
up. Anyway. As we look at this, go back to this chart again. Spider-Man No Way Home did have a 67.5% drop. That is a bigger second weekend drop off than Fantastic Four First Steps. However, while that is true, Spider-Man No Way Home had a $260 million opening weekend. All right. Fantastic Four had a $117 million opening weekend. Spider-Man No Way Home having one of the biggest opening weekends in cinematic history. I think it's the second biggest weekend in cinematic history. Meant that everybody and their mother's cousins went to go see it on opening weekend. So it was inevitable that it would have a larger than normal second weekend drop off because literally $260 million worth of people went to go see it opening weekend. Fantastic Four does not have that luxury. It had a good opening weekend at $118 million. That's a good opening weekend, sure. But it's not the scale of opening weekend which will lend itself to a natural drop off in the second weekend like Spider-Man No Way Home did, because it literally had more than a double sized opening weekend. So, and again, it's not the worst second weekend drop off that Marvel's had, but it is the 8th worst out of 30 plus some odd movies. It is the 8th worst. So it absolutely is worth being concerned about because it's happening even though the audiences and the critics are all loved it. So it's something they should be concerned about, but they also have to take a step back and look at it in a bigger context. So that's why you're seeing the concern that they have. All right, what's next?
Cooper has a two-parter. Hey, John, Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars will be the first MCU films co-produced by Marvel and Agbo, Russo brothers, not Sony. With Saudi investment in both Agbo and Disney and their big push into sports, could this lead to even greater global scale? Also, with Brand New Day set before Doomsday and rumors of Sadie Sink and Brand in Toby in Secret Wars, could Agbo now co-producing act as a third-party bridge that helps Disney and Sony strike a bigger crossover deal? For
No, Agbo has nothing to do with Spider-Man and nothing to do with Sony. And they are a production company in name only. Like sometimes it's like many times when you see when you see an actor attach themselves as a producer, or when a big actor will attach themselves to a movie, oftentimes it will come with the stipulation that I want a producer credit. Agbo is the Russo brothers now. The Russo brothers are Agbo. So I'm sure calling it an Agbo production is part of it. Look, ultimately, really at the end of the day, this is a Marvel production. And they have nothing to do with Spider-Man. Marvel may have the rights to put a Spider-Man in one of the movies like they did for an Infinity War and like they did for Endgame, but that does not make it anything to do with anybody else. It's still a Sony character. It doesn't bridge anything whatsoever. The Russo brothers is just Agbo. That's just, think of those terms interchangeable, and that kind of makes the picture a little bit clearer. All right, what's next?
Okay, Sean had a tip here, but it's a little spoilery, so I'm just going to paraphrase, and he's just wondering, do we think Supergirl would be a lot of the language in Kryptonian or not? I say less than 1%. It'll be in English.
Less than 1% it'll be in English?
No, because he's
less
asking...
Less than 1% that'll use Kryptonian.
Chance that it uses Kryptonian as the main language.
Oh, no. 0% of that. Zero.
Yeah.
No chance.
No.
Will some phrases be uttered in Kryptonian? Sure. But that they're going to speak Kryptonian through the movie? No. This isn't Das Boot. They are definitely not going to do that. It will definitely be in English. 100%. All right. What's next?
Okay, Australian Jedi. I think people are overreacting a bit about F4's box office drop. It'll still probably end up with $500 million global box office total, likely making it profitable, and that's on par with most other big budget films these days.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, we talked about it a little bit before. I mean, regardless of the significant second weekend box office drop. There's no painting that pretty. The second weekend box office drop is not a pretty picture. But if you want to take a step back again and look at it in a positive way, this movie is clearly going to be the highest grossing movie that Marvel has had in a while.
Yeah. So it's an
again, not counting the anomaly that was Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right. But
It's going to be the highest grossing one. So if you want to take a step back, you can see that the quality of Thunderbolts, the quality of this Fantastic Four movie, this has Marvel for the first time in a while going on a positive trajectory with its box office results. This movie is going to make more money than the previous one, which is Thunderbolts. It's also going to make more money than the one before that, Captain America: Brave New World. It's also going to make more money than the one before that, the Marvel. So you do see, again, if you want to try to take a positive look at it, this is the box office going in the positive direction. It's the box office re-emerging and climbing again, which it had been in free fall. And now it's heading back up. So that's a good sign for them in the future, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is still a startling thing to see a 66% drop in its second weekend. A 66% drop when it has such positive fan reactions and critic reactions. So yeah, both are true at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive. Those are two true things at the same time. All right, what's next?
Darius says, hello, hope all is well. I have a theory that Doomsday is a Fantastic Four 2.0, the same way Civil War is sort of an Avengers 2.5. I think Doomsday will be a Fantastic Four-centered movie, obviously including everyone else, but still a Reed versus Victor story.
No, I think definitely the Fantastic Four characters will play a significant role in Avengers Doomsday, but I don't see that being true at all, not remotely. Like, none of the Avengers movies are really any one person's or one group's film. They really do a great job, starting right from the first Avengers film in, what was it, 2016? Can't remember now, or 2012. That first Avengers film became a true ensemble movie. Age of Ultron, some characters had some more screen time than others, but it was still a true ensemble movie. Infinity War, Endgame. Can you have some people that you could call major characters? Sure, but neither of those were Captain America 3.5. Neither of those were Iron Man 4.5. It's truly an ensemble. So I see them playing a significant role in Doomsday just as much as I see a number of other MCU characters. I don't think it is at all going to be like a Fantastic Four 2.5 or 1.5. All right, what's next?
All right, Optimus Prime Rib. I mean, we've done this ad nauseum, but settle this once and for all. Explain to the Snyder Bros why Superman's success, despite potentially not grossing more or selling more tickets than Man of Steel, even adjusted for inflation, thus why bother rebooting if less people want to see it? Because look at what it's up against.
Yeah, look again. We're going to do a dedicated, the only reason I'm going to do this tomorrow. On tomorrow's John Campea Show, one of our main topics is going to be why you should not ever take inflation into account when talking about box office. And the reason we're going to do a dedicated topic to it is so I have a pure standalone video on it. So every time somebody brings it up, I can just give them the link. Mm-hmm. Just go to that and stop talking about it. Basically, here's the thing. I put this on my Facebook account today too. Not that I use Facebook very much, but the reason it's absolutely idiotic. People think they sound smart when if you take inflation into account, that is the stupidest thing you can do. Here's why. When you try to bring up inflation into a conversation about different eras or years, movies, box office totals, you are making a massive fallacy assumption. And here's the massive assumption you're making. You're making the assumption that if that movie that came out, let's make up a year, in 1992, were to come out today, you are making the assumption that that movie would sell just as many tickets today in today's environment and today's economic environment and today's socio environment and today's context. You are assuming that movie that came out in 1992 under a certain set of circumstances and a certain context, if it were to come out today, it would sell just as many tickets as it did then. And therefore you just look at the inflated prices. And that is one of the most idiotic assumptions you can possibly make. There is nothing to back up the idea that X movie that came out in 1998, were you to release that movie today in today's context, that it would sell the exact same amount of tickets. It's a fallacy. It's ridiculous. Everybody acknowledges that, yeah, you can't possibly assume that a movie that came out in one era coming out today would sell the exact same amount of tickets. If you acknowledge that that's a ridiculous assumption, then bringing up inflation is completely pointless. It's completely pointless.
Everyone, every time we do this too, like, I'm not throwing shade here, but it's like everyone in the chat starts immediately talking at us as opposed to listening. So then they always, as you're explaining it, they go, then it's really simple. Just stop talking and just count tickets.
Yeah.
But that still goes along with it. Do you think that many tickets would have been sold?
That's exactly. Like one of our viewers right now, Tokai number, just said, why not just do total tickets? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because when X movie from X era came out, tickets were 10 times cheaper and it was way easier for somebody to go to the movies than it is today. Maybe you don't take total number of tickets into account because at that time, the average runtime for movies in theaters was 5 months instead of 40 days. I don't know. Maybe you don't take total tickets into account because when that movie was out and selling tickets, kids weren't spending their money on video games instead of going to the movies. And so like, why don't you just take total number of tickets? Because every era is different. The forces and the context and the socioeconomic realities are all different in impacting how many tickets get sold. Again, whenever you bring inflation up, you are assuming, and even if you try to take into account total number of tickets sold, that assumes that if that movie that came out in that era, in that context, were to come out today, it would still sell the same amount of tickets. It wouldn't have. I'm sorry to break it to all of you Gone with the Wind fans. I'm a Gone with the Wind fan. But I'm sorry to tell you that if Gone with the Wind had never come out and it got released today, I'm sorry to tell you it would not sell the same amount of tickets with a 40-day window, competing against streaming.
It's a 4-hour movie.
With fewer people going to the movies today than we're going.
But you know.
It wouldn't sell. It would sell less than half the amount of tickets that it did. So that's why it's pointless to bring up inflation, tickets sold, all that kind of stuff. Every year represents a different economic reality and a different cultural context for when a movie comes out. Therefore, it's pointless to try to cross-compare by inflation or tickets sold. You can only compare it against its own contemporaries. That's the only real comparison. Anyway, we're going to talk more about it tomorrow, and then we'll make a video out of it so I never have to talk about it again, and I can just point people to the link. All right, what's next?
Mr. Snivy, John Pack here. Has there been a time a movie made you hungry? For example, for me, one of the Pokemon movies made me hungry for macarons, and Birds of Prey made me hungry for an egg sandwich. I could tell you one right now. You guys should. And
I'm wondering if you're going to say the same one I am. Go ahead and say it.
So 1996. Do a little homework, guys.
Not
Watch
the one
this
I was
movie.
thinking of, but go ahead.
Big Night. It's with Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub, Minnie Driver.
Oh, that's right. I remember that one now.
Rossellini. They're Italian chefs, and they have this restaurant. Do not watch Big Night on an empty stomach. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, I could say films like, the Bradley Cooper one that he played a chef a couple of years ago. That was a pretty good one. I could say films like Ratatouille. I could say films like, what's the recent one with Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy?
Yeah.
The Menu.
The Menu.
I could say The Menu. Honestly, I love those movies, but none of them made me hungry. The one that made me hungry, like mouth-watering the whole movie, and I couldn't wait for the movie to end. I loved the movie, but I couldn't wait for it to end because I wanted to run out and grab some good food, was Jon Favreau's movie Chef.
I love it. I love that movie. I mean, it's a little generous on who his ex-wife and current girlfriend are.
Oh, sure. Yes. Very generous.
So you went from
Scarlett Johansson to not Vera Farmiga.
That was her.
No, it wasn't Vera Farmiga. It was
Vergara.
Vergara. Yeah, that
was his ex-wife. Vergara. And then his girlfriend. I'm like, very generous.
That's who Jon Favreau's landing in these movies. But I mean, you watch that movie. Oh, just the way they handle the food and make the food in it. Like, I just got so hungry watching that movie.
When they make those Cubanos, woo. those Cuban sandwiches.
Oh my God, I just realized we're already past 1 o'clock. All right, let's do one more, then we'll have to get caught up on the rest of them tomorrow.
Okay, we got James UK. I think every time we hear a police or cop siren, we should sing whoop whoop. That's the sound of the police. I won't do the whole thing, but I watched Naked Gun yesterday and thought it was funny.
Oh, Naked Gun was hilarious. Again, I thought the third act of the film, like the last 20 to 30 minutes, lost steam. But the first hour of the movie is so funny that it didn't really take away.
To be fair, I felt like 33 and a third, and also the second. I feel like they did, the other ones did too.
Yeah, I agree. The novelty wears off.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a great thing that this movie's only 89 minutes. But man, I'll tell you what, in the first hour, I was laughing my ass off. I was laughing so hard. Like Anne couldn't even hear the screen sometimes. I was laughing so hard. And the people beside us were laughing. I thought it was great. But again, I thought the last little bit kind of wore off. For me, whenever I still do this annoying thing, it annoys Anne, and I shouldn't because it's really old now. But whenever we hear police sirens, see cop cars, I always go, uh-oh, it's the po-po. Which, if you know what that's from, go ahead and leave it in the thing. But anyway, all right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. I remember, for everybody who's sending questions we didn't get around to, we'll get caught up on tomorrow's. Again, we had all weekend and we didn't do a show on Friday, so we were a little bit backed up. But don't worry, we'll get all caught up tomorrow. I want to say a big thank you to Robert Meyer Burnett for being here. Of course, our technical producer, Jonathan Voight.
See you guys tomorrow.
My name's John Campea. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.